Boom, 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 boom. Hey, this is Jared, and I'm back. Hey, guys, crush the share button. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. And if you don't, it's double trouble time. All right. I am the co host, Jared A. Brown. I co host with my partner in crime, my brother from the womb, Jeff Brown. And we do this show, Double Trouble, and we interview the brightest minds, all right, in the affiliate marketing space, entrepreneurs, people that start their own businesses. And tonight is no exception. All right, I've got a great guest. All right, Stephanie MoDavis is my guest, and you're in for a treat. I'm serious, you guys. We're gonna have like a lot of what we call value bombs. All right, they're gonna be exploding because she has so much inspiration, and she's going to be very motivational. All right, so she's started her own 501c. She's created not only that, but she creates changes. All right, because she's felt like that there wasn't enough going on with her experience as a patient that she wanted to do more. So she's making changes. So that alone is what I respect, is that she's going to be making changes to make sure people's lives are better. She discovered the authentic healing comes from coupling of experts and an experiencer community. And there are ways to end the cycle of emotional upset, stuckness, pain, and depression and anxiety, fear, stability, financial woes, and more. And you can get your life back and become so much more even while experiencing setbacks. In fact, setbacks are what she calls information, and we just need to get that space to experience it so that you can move forward. And she humbly facilitates her self-healing journey. I'm excited to get her story out to you guys because of, again, what she has done is incredible. And I'm excited to have you get inspired and motivated today. So please don't be stingy. All right. Don't be stingy. Please crush that share button. Don't hesitate and be shy. All right. Because sharing is caring. And I know you care. Okay. I care too. So please share. And I'm going to bring on my co-host, my brother from the womb. Okay, we were womb brothers before it ever become, before it ever trended. Or I don't know if that ever trended, but we've been womb brothers for a long time. So please drop your comments. Give my twin brother a very warm welcome. Here we go, co-host. Boom.
Hey, what's going on? What's up, everyone?
What up? What up? What up? How we doing? How we doing? Hey, I know it's real early where you're at, brother. Thank you for coming on this early in the morning in Abu Dhabi, and we've got a great
Yeah, it's
guest,
all right.
Stephanie MoDavis.
Yeah, I'm looking forward.
Me too. So Stephanie and I've known her for
Uh,
quite some time, and back in I think it was 2018 is when I first got introduced to her, and so I'm excited to bring her on. She has such a vibrant, positive, very just a great aura, great energy, and I'm excited for everyone else to feel that same energy as well. And so let's bring her on. I'm excited to do that so that we can get her story out there. Are you ready, brother? All right, here we go. I'm going to put her. I'm going to give her a very VIP treatment. And I'm asking anybody who's live right now, please drop your comment. All right. Let me know. Hashtag live. And if it's, tomorrow sometime or in the future, then hashtag replay. But drop me a comment and give Stephanie MoDavis a very warm welcome. Here we go. VIP. Boom. All right, where is it? Where is it? Boom. Hello, hello.
That was so awesome. I feel very cool. Thank you, guys.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
That's how we roll. That's that's how we do things here.
Wonderful. I'm happy to be here.
How you doing, Stephanie?
I'm great, Jeff. Thanks for being able to join us from Abu Dhabi today. Happy to be with you both.
Awesome. So
You're welcome.
we have somebody watching here, and I apologize that sometimes what happens is StreamYard, you have to give permission to to StreamYard in order to show your name live when you're commenting. And so if you can actually put in your name so we can know who you are, just so that I can address you and thank you for your comments, I'd appreciate that. So here we go. Stephanie, man, I'm so excited to have you on as a guest. I believe that last time we may have interacted was at a pretty sad time, is when our sister in the kidney disease community had passed away.
That's
and,
right.
and so that wasn't necessarily a great, time. But right now, what I want to do is I want to inspire some people. And I really believe your story is that alone is very inspirational. And so I'm excited to do that. Is that, you've got so many good things going on. I mean, when I go to your Facebook, profile, you've got some links here that I've looked at, and the inner awakening healthcare. You're so busy doing things, and it's I want to be able to find out, how do you juggle all this?
How do I juggle all this? Well, let's see. I've been given an incredible experience with many different opportunities to share. I love to share. I believe that we go through hardship and difficulties and beautiful moments. And for me, as a woman in today's day and age, sharing my experience and especially distilling what I've learned through the hardships, through the beautiful aspects of my life, have become really important to me. I feel as though often the authenticity of our experiences often doesn't have the place to truly come through. And a lot of those links that you see in my Facebook page and a lot of the things that I've created have very directly come from the distillation of my own very challenging experiences. So, trying to turn these lemons into lemonade, so to speak, but it's been quite a challenge, and everything you see there is 100% completely something that I've experienced and lived through, and it's not something that I'm just shooting for or aiming for. It's a direct experience, and for me it's such a pleasure to be able to distill and purify something to the degree that I can, and turn it around into something that's more inspirational and motivational than maybe depressing or something that someone else should feel sorry for me about.
Wow, love it. And that's what I've always sensed about you, is your authenticity.
Mm.
You're going to share something, and sometimes it may not necessarily be what someone wants to hear, but you're going to be real with people, and I like that.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword very often.
Right?
It really is. It's one of those things where what you see is what you get all the time. And I do speak my mind, but I never want to.
That's an interesting way to put it, a double-edged sword.
It certainly is. But there's a commitment on my part to be honest and to permit my feelings to come forth. I've done enough work on myself to try to be not reactionary, but respond. But if I feel something in the direct moment, rather than going in my head and escaping into thought or worry or confusion, I tend to permit myself to
Okay.
share very directly in the moment, which can be very off putting for people because they're not prepared. But also, some people tend to really look up to me in certain aspects that I'm not afraid to go into the complexities in the spot, really lean into the discomfort. To me, that's the only way I really know how to be. So.
All right. All right. Well, you do you. You do you, right?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. Wouldn't you agree the world, we might not be in some of the issues and problems that we're involved with if we wouldn't lie or be afraid to share the truth and just be
Absolutely,
honest?
absolutely. In fact, it's funny that you say that. Is that just the other day I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were thinking back about a company that we used to work for, and how the owner of the company was such a, I don't know what we, kind of a man that was hard to, that wasn't necessarily making uh, the most ethical decisions. Okay, if I can say it that way. And I want us to give a shout out to my brother from another mother, Steve Belcher. I had the wonderful opportunity, side note here, real fast, Stephanie, to actually meet him in person in Washington, D.C.
Mm,
In February. And it was the first time we've actually met in person. It was awesome.
yeah, I've had that
Yeah.
opportunity a couple times with Steve,
Yes.
and it is
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah,
Uh
it's
huh.
great. He's an
Yeah,
awesome,
nice.
awesome guy. Hi, Steve.
Awesome.
So, but when I mentioned this to my friend that we used to work with for this owner, I had mentioned to him, although I didn't always agree with this man, I did actually respect him.
Mm,
And he said, "Well,
mhm,
what do you mean you didn't agree with him?" I said, "You don't have to agree with somebody to respect somebody."
mhm,
And I said,
mhm.
and I had to explain myself. I said, there are oftentimes people that I respect more because they're straight shooters, because
Mhm,
I know
mhm,
that I'm always going to get their honesty.
mm,
Whether I
mhm.
agree with them or not, I know that they're somebody who's not like a backstabber, or somebody who's going to hold the truth from me because they don't want to hurt my feelings. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I would
That's
agree
such
with you.
an interesting perspective you have, and I think in today's day and age, we're really facing these
I would.
complexities. We're facing these complexities around leadership and bosses and
I
tyranny
would
and
always much
such.
rather hear the truth than have someone and see.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think in today's day and age, there's, this can be a cautionary tale depending on your audience. So it seems as though
True.
we've entered a state of being hyper emotional in some respects. So having that boss who may actually be a good leader, where
Mhm.
he shoots straight, he's honest, but he's not always appeasing to everybody's feeling state. And in today's day and age, this is grounds for cancellation
I
in some
know, I
realms.
know.
So it's really a shame because I think that insofar as business, there's different roles, and as much as we want equality, there has to be, the reality is that we do operate on these hierarchical realms, and it's for a purpose. There's a purpose with having a boss who can
Right.
oversee and shoot straight from the hip and kind of bring that action oriented, healthy masculine energy. And I think that we're at a time in history where we're getting things confused. We're getting that strong, healthy, masculine, action oriented energy, maybe sometimes confused with tyrannical, misogynistic behavior. And,
Right.
and in my eyes, like you said, I also respect the leader who, might not be appeasing or the most hospitable person, but can really run the ship, can really lead and speak truth and be upfront with people. So it's an
Mhm.
interesting time in history with group dynamics and leadership and bosses and employees, and it's complicated. I'll say that it's quite complex.
Complex, yes, but man, it on a simpler note is that it can be complex, but at least, with people that are speaking their mind, at least we have we know, and we could be rest assured that they're giving us an answer. And
Yeah.
it, I get it that, right now, in this day and age, we're all about the feelings. We're all about, saying the right things, but what about, talking freely? I mean,
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
yeah.
I think that we need to. I think there's a level of a feeling state that maybe had been suppressed in the collective for a long time. So now
Mhm.
there's this kind of polarized wanting to be very heard, seen, appreciated, valued, spoken to kindly. And there's a level of respect I have for this vulnerability. But as far as running the world and running business and operating complex structures, we need to not feel like we're hurt if our
Uh-huh.
boss says something that's true that maybe we feel offended by. So, as I said, I think that even some simple things can be seen as complex, right?
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think this is
I see
kind of
your
one of
point.
those. I think this is one of those scenarios where we're just at different states. The people are at different states, and trying to coalesce those together in business has
Mhm.
is a little bit complicated. But it also seems like it's shaking out, like it's going to shake out no matter what. If those people need to leave that particular business, or certain people need to kind of shift into where they feel comfortable, I think it's going to shake out at some point, no matter what. So,
Well, speaking of changes and shaking things up, again, I was on your Facebook to look at some of the things that you've been doing recently, and some of your links. To me, I'd like to kind of transition into that.
sure.
You've got the inner awakening, which is kind of why I named the title of the show "Inner Awakening" because of what you are doing, and then the awakening healthcare.
Mhm.
Um, Talk to me a little bit about what kind of inspired you to do those 2 things?
Great. Thank you so much. Where to start? So I'll say that I started in my early 20s as a woman who wanted to make a difference. And as a woman who felt like community and connection and holistic health were really important. And then, as both of you know, I went on my own healing and health journey with kidney failure, and then receiving not one, but two kidney transplants. And an observation that was very clear to me was that we were really truly missing this essence of holistic health within the Western medical model. And I found the clients that I would see I had yoga studios in my 20s. The clients that I would see were always looking for some sort of deeper spiritual connection, some sort of meaning within the hardships they were facing in life. And it
Okay.
hit me like a ton of bricks one day as I was dealing with my own health issues, very severe health issues. Nobody in the realm of healthcare ever gave me the opportunity that this was a meaningful experience. It was always something that, we got to get you well, we got to fight this disease, this is awful, I feel so bad for that you have this condition, and you're so young, and I'm so sorry. And at some point this language didn't jive with me anymore. I feel like this is happening to me for some sort of divine sacred reason, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm going to seek out on a quest, and I'm going to try to figure out and cultivate room for me to find some deep meaning in why I'm experiencing this and what am I learning from this. And this was something that was completely obsolete from the current medical model. And
Mhm.
I felt what I noticed was me holding that space and finding meaning and really saying my illness experience is happening for a reason. Like, that's so contrary to something that we would like to hear. But in me doing that, I was able to find a peace and a freedom and really look down at my illness as an experience that I was having rather than I was the illness.
Right.
And this separation completely changed not only my experience with kidney disease, which was severe, but my healing and my integration of my transplant afterwards. So
Wow.
this was something that I felt like I needed to try to find a way to articulate to people who often don't have a worldview like that. And it wasn't that I wanted to diminish the severity of fighting the disease. It wasn't a this or that. It was an and. I was simply trying to say, yes, we have to fight the disease. And can we try to hold space that maybe this is for some sort of purpose and is going to cultivate some sort of meaning within our life's experience? And a lot of what you see there is the culmination of me trying to articulate languaging for patients,
Okay.
for the general public, for
Mhm.
healthcare providers around the mechanisms that helped me so greatly, truly thrive and move past my kidney disease rather than the need to constantly talk about it and stay stuck in that experience.
Stuck. You've used that, in some of, on your blog and on, your website, because do you feel as though a lot of patients that you've dealt with feel that stuckness and that they're not sure, you know, why they feel that way?
Jeff and Jared, I think it's part of the human experience.
Okay.
I don't necessarily isolate it just to patients, but I definitely do witness that.
Yeah.
I do witness that very often it is such an because we don't offer that positive spin on the condition, it causes a lot of trauma. It causes a lot of systemic mental trauma, emotional trauma, and to cognitively be able to work through that and just overcome it is really difficult for a lot of people. So yes, what I see is a lot of behavior that there is an expression of extreme gratitude and happiness that I got my kidney, but then behind the scenes there's also this very deep suffering that's often not brought to the table. And for me, I feel like that does a disservice to patients and to people when we don't bring the whole story. And in people's lives, Facebook, social media, the kidney transplant community, it seems as though it's a this or that. So
Mhm.
either we're glorifying and we're the best advocate in the world and my life is great, look at all my pictures, and we don't show the other side, or we are all the other negative side. So I'm just trying to expand our awareness, expand what we can hold within our consciousness, that it's actually both. It's both. And again, instead of these two fighting each other or being very insulary into the positive or the negative, how can we just bring the full story authentically and honestly and say, I'm super grateful that I've gotten my transplant? Like, I can't even express to you how grateful I am, but I also still suffer. So that's what I'm trying to introduce,
Okay.
this and
Mhm.
not or. It's kind of the good and the shadow, and that if we have space for both, then we don't have to necessarily hide or demonize the stuff that feels taboo.
So Steve just shared right here. That was deep. What she just said. That is deep and what very eloquently said, though. Because it's not just this or that. There's so much more in between, and it can be they can kind of transcend, right?
They can
Yes.
coexist, but this is the inner awakening.
Okay.
You
I love
have to
it.
you have to first permit yourself to share sides of you that may not be reputationally appeasing, or you may not look like the best person in the room. You have to have a vulnerability, because when you put yourself out there fully, because the world operates in duality, usually these poles, you're gonna be attacked by one or the other pole.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like you start to be able to navigate from the middle, where you can kind of be both. But again, out in the world, then you often are going to get judged when you're not siding with one or the other, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. I totally know what you mean. I felt that way sometimes too, where if although I respect one side, if I don't agree with that side thinks I'm against them. And it's
Yeah.
not that I don't like them, I just don't agree with what they're doing, but I'm not like opposed to them or I don't have like angry emotions towards them, you know what I mean?
Well, if you have that, that's a lot of the work when I do the inner awakening work, is to find this middle ground where you can be on mission, you can be working at your purpose without being emotionally dysregulated. Because I don't know about you guys, but I only have so much energy throughout the day. So
Amen.
if I want to do multiple things and be a high level producer of things in the world, I got to manage my energy. And guess what is the first thing that actually takes my energy? It's not eating, it's my feelings, my emotions.
Emotions.
So if you are emotionally hijacked by the media, by this Democrat or Republican or this or that or if you're constantly emotionally hijacked, you're losing a lot of energy to do what
Yes.
you actually want to do. So this inner awakening is a process of learning where you are on the spectrum and then learning how to bring up what frustrates you about the
Okay.
sides, about the poles, about
Mhm.
within you, because these really exist within yourself
For
too. It's
sure.
kind of interesting. So it's
Yeah.
kind of looking at yourself and truly looking at your blind spots, right? So usually they say, you become that which you hate, but you don't often, you're like, me? No, I don't do that.
I
But
don't like them. Why
you,
would I become them? Yeah.
right, but in your disdain and your constant feeding that energy, you do start to become that, but you don't see it. You think you're fighting against it. So this is a little bit of psychological work, some emotional work, and it's really helping us to see ourselves clearly,
Mhm.
which means doing what we call shadow work. This is a very Carl Jung, who's a psychologist. It's a
Yeah.
very psychological shadow work, which is having you look at the sides of you that you can't quite see. A good way to just do this, if you're not quite sure, is ask like the 5 people who know you best. I'm sure you guys would be
Right.
great
Yeah.
mirrors for each other, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, hey, bro, tell me honestly, what are some of my bad qualities? And people will tell you. And then you have to be like, okay, maybe I am like that and I don't see that. And how can I start to work on that? So the inner awakening is this process of doing just that. And what's so miraculous and interesting about this work is when you start to do that work and look at your own biases and your own shadows, you it's almost as though you start to see the world a little differently. And at some point in time, you realize, wow, I'm projecting out onto the world and creating enemies with a lot of different types of people. And actually, it's rooted in some sort of deep bias or imbalance within me. And then
Mhm.
I'm seeing it in them and I'm attacking them rather than looking in the mirror and really asking myself, why does that bother me so much? And is there something within me that's actually, I'm putting the blame and
That's
the
the thing to
work
do is to
onto
look in the
them.
mirror.
Yes, everybody stop, look in the mirror for a long while and really get honest with yourself. So for me to be honest with the world and with this work that I do, I couldn't have done that if I didn't look at myself and call myself out on my own BS. And I have to do this quite often because we're humans and we have patterns.
We do.
So
Yeah.
very often I have to check in. Stephanie, are you BSing yourself right now? And I do this hard work, right? So then when I can commit to my own work, only then can I really continue to show up out in the world with that state of authenticity and not a shadow projection onto the bad one.
Okay. So, these you'd mentioned that sometimes the emotions that we have, we don't want to have our energy sucked, so to speak, by, the negative people or what have you. How do we protect ourselves from these negative vampires, these energy vampires?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a real thing, and it's also lies on a spectrum. So I've come to really realize that a lot of things lie on a spectrum, right? So first, again, I wanted to always address the outer energy vampires, right? And say, like, how do I create boundaries between these people and myself because they continue to suck my energy? And that was a way for me to realize again, I was having to continuously do work on myself because those people, I kept letting that energy back into my life. Now, when you're sick, this is very, very critical because when you're sick, you need all of your energy to focus on you trying to heal, trying to get what
Right.
you need. So
Hmm.
if you have some systemic or family wounds, inner child wounds from your childhood about creating boundaries, you might continually let people into your life who really aren't meant to be there, or you need to stand up and set a boundary against. And if you don't know how to do that when you're sick, I mean, my sickness, again, taught me how to be a more mature human being. I utilized so much of my illness to level up. And for me, I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Oh,
It's
wow.
just who I am. So
Yeah.
I would throw myself under the bus. Are you okay? Are you okay? I mean, like, how can I make you happy? You don't like me? Oh my gosh, I'm so sad. You don't like me. This is how I used to be. And it was just conditioned in me from whatever, my family, being a
Hmm.
woman, be the nice, good girl, Stephanie. Like you got to be the nice one. So I had to learn when I was sick how to cultivate those boundaries and advocate for myself. So it was
So
a
it's
very difficult process for me, but I had to do it.
all right. So what you're saying is that it's okay to say no when you're setting boundaries. Obviously, when you're doing it in a way that's not I'm yelling or screaming, but doing it in a way that you're actually letting the person know that right now, I can't do this, or what would be the best way, just real shortly, because that's probably a whole different.
Yeah, it's a whole different topic, but I
Right.
would I would just say this again. Working with the emotions can get complicated, but it also can be simple. If you find yourself reacting and yelling and saying, "I need to set a boundary," if you're reacting that way, it's an indication that you've waited way too long.
Okay.
So
Okay.
forgive yourself and then try to do better next time with being more aware of your feeling state to say, hey, you know what, this isn't suiting me or this isn't working for
Hmm.
me. Can we, touch base at another time or whatever you need to do? So
And then
forgive yourself if you blow up and just try better to listen to yourself next time sooner.
No, I like that. That's actually that totally makes sense. Is that if you've let kind of your emotions kind of climax and take control, then at one point, you've got to kind of get better at sensing that your frustration and anger, that those things are escalating.
That's
And
right.
yeah, and it's kind of
And
just kind of
usually
a practice, right?
it is because usually your body is sending you cues, but because of our patterns, we often suppress the cues. So we have to find a way, as you said, to check in with the senses and permit
Hmm.
our feeling state to come through. Because really, your feelings are your emotional guidance system. But very often in today's society, we're taught to suppress feelings and emotions. So then when
Yeah.
our body's talking to us, we're not online to hear it until we wait too long and then blow up.
And then all of a sudden it's oh, all right, I overreacted.
Yeah, and then you say, "I'm sorry," and
Yeah.
and it's so interesting because I just read this quote. I don't know if I have it here. Yeah, a good relationship survives the whole pattern, meaning harmony to disharmony, and you don't get stuck in the disharmony, but you're able to move through the stuckness into repair and another state of harmony.
Boom! I love
Isn't
that.
that good?
Yeah, that is so uh, that that right there is profound. I love that.
Should I
Yeah,
read it
that's
again?
yes,
That's
please
deep.
do read that again.
Okay, listen. A good relationship. Now, this could be relationship with your partner, a friend, your coworker, your boss, anybody. A good
Whoever.
relationship survives the whole pattern from harmony through disharmony. You don't get stuck in the disharmony, but you're able to move into repair and then eventually back into harmony.
Boom! I love
Yeah.
that.
Those aren't my words. I picked that up
I get it, but
from a guy, but
nonetheless,
it's
that's
amazing.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That is very profound. I love that.
You're welcome.
Because you're right though, because if that's why since so many times in my marriage, our marriage ha- uh, has gotten better because we've been able to grow and develop. And so that does make sense is it's through thick and thin. You're not just going to celebrate your wins, but you're going to celebrate your losses and then you grow from them.
That's
So I
right. That's
love
right.
that. That's very profound. Very
Mm,
good.
good. Good.
S- so the inner awakening, I love that name. And
Mhm.
the so much of what you do is spiritual, and I dig that. I do. I really like that because I I do meditation. I've been able to, not to pat myself on the back, but I've been able to decrease my high blood pressure where I'm not on lisinopril anymore. So
Great.
pat myself on the back. Yeah. And
Great.
one of one of those reasons I think is because of meditation.
Mhm.
And I do cold showers as well and breathing exercises. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
the with your spiritual side of you, how much of that has really influenced what you're doing with the inner awakening and any other thing that you do? Because again, I so much admiration for your spiritual side because I think that
Mm.
you add so much and there's so much positivity and good energy from you when you talk about spirituality.
Mhm. I thank you for asking that. And, I've had so many patients reach out to me and mention similar words because when you're suffering and you're going through something really challenging physically, again, the medical field leaves there's no room. We're strictly matter
Oh,
based and an object within this physical world. And at
uh-huh.
some point, when you're sitting with yourself, sick or not, and you're struggling or going through something, again, you're seeking for a much deeper meaning in things that just the matter based way of thinking does not. You just can't find that meaning from that very often. This is a big subject right now between the world of science and spirit.
Mhm.
It's a battle, so to speak. But back in ancient civilizations, Egyptian, I mean, science and spirit were one and the same.
They
There was
connect.
this admiration for them working
Uh,
together, and
Technical difficulties.
Looks
I
like
believe
he's
sorry.
having some technical difficulties. Yeah, there's a little bit of a lag still, Jeff, but
yeah,
so you're right. They go hand in hand and they have been for years as you're saying.
Is
they
just
do. Oh, it's too bad that we can't. Yeah, maybe he's gonna leave us.
Yeah,
Okay.
he'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a decision that I made throughout my illness journey to really maintain my connection with my spiritual well-being, my deepest sense of self, the fact that I know that we are beyond just physical. And again, when you're sick or you have a trauma or something you're going through that's so complicated, it's very difficult to try to the brain wants to often figure things out cognitively. And there are just some things that you're not going to get to
We
a
don't always have those
cognitive
answers, huh?
solution.
Yeah.
So and for me, as many people, like I was facing my own death. So I how could I not incorporate these sensations? I mean, when I say this to you, it's not just a thought, it's a sensation working through my body when I was getting very, very, very sick. It's almost like the body feels the closeness to death, right? And it's you shift, you change. I mean, think about young children that you see who have a critical illness, and they're on their death journey. This
Mm-hmm.
wisdom comes over them, this deep intrinsic like wisdom. It's the spiritual side. It's the, it's the it's them connecting with the transcendent and the sacred. So for me, maintaining that and continuing to work on the spirit, my spirit, my the consciousness beyond the physical object that I am, was what helped me really process and minimize stress, commit to my process of health and wellness, and be compliant with everything I need to do. Like, all of this came from the respect I had for my physical body based off of my spiritual gift of being here as a human being. And there's so many complications in the medical system at large, where we wonder why aren't they being compliant? Why are they well, because they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, and they don't have vision to see the transcendent and the sacred anymore, because that's all we're giving them the option to do, is focus on their illness. So for me, the spiritual part of me is equally, if not a little bit more important than the physical. You have to be you're in a physical body, so you have to take care of the physical. But
Sure.
in our world, we are so physical and matter based, and it's really, we forget how finite we are here and how connected we all are. And for me, having a spiritual practice, which means connecting with the sacred, connecting with a power beyond me that I'm going to call God, right? I have no
Mm-hmm.
problem saying that, I'm Christian, I believe in God. And me having that relationship with the transcendent keeps my life feeling purposeful, even when it sucks,
Yeah.
helps me to recover and to love people more, helps me to do my own work and to be, to put myself in my own place. So it's a like a structure, it's a container, it's a construct that helps to keep me showing up with more love than anger, hate, and fear. And for me, that's critical. And I think that if more of us were to commit to that sacred part of life, we wouldn't suffer quite as much.
I love that. So if I understand a little bit what you're saying, is that there could be a time in our lives where we're not like either feeding or nurturing our spirit well enough, and then when there's not that balance and our spirit is maybe a little deprived, if I can use that
Mhm,
word,
mhm.
then that equilibrium is a little off. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, a good word I've heard people use is spiritual hygiene.
All right,
So,
all right, I
which
like
which
that.
is, I like it. And for me, um, a lot of emotions that weigh us down, for me, having that connection to the sacred again helps me to recalibrate, helps me to reiterate my story, helps me to shift. And again, like we talked about earlier, not feel stuck in my story, because I am beyond my story.
Right.
Stephanie is the name I was given in this body, in this time and space that I'm here, right? But my consciousness is beyond my story here. So if you can find a way to connect in with that, everything broadens, including your compassion for humanity. So it's a worldview shift of getting out of the I and the selfishness and my
Mhm.
story and this is what I need and it's all about me. There has to be what they call a death of the ego, or like an identity crisis. So you realize that you're actually beyond just your identity. You are, as God would say in the Bible, I am that I am,
I
which
am
is
that I
like
am.
I'm not just my identity in this body, and my life isn't just about me. There's something that's bigger than me. And when you choose to really bring that into your day-to-day story, it just broadens the worldview, and it's just for me then I couldn't see living any other way, because I would feel really completely selfish, and just I'd feel I couldn't be contained in such a tight construct of just Stephanie, and this is my identity, and this is my one story. So that's why you see very often I'm kind of dabbling in different realms of work, because I'm able to be broad and share in different multiple communities, just as you are. So
Mm-hmm. So would you, I mean, this is just, I don't know, speculation per se, but would you speculate that maybe that's the reason why ultra successful people aren't always happy? Because even though they have, like, I don't know, like all this money and all this power, they're not always happy because maybe that spirituality isn't nurtured or fed very much.
I mean, I think it's a good speculation to have, is that I've known a lot of people who've moved hierarchically up the ladder, so to speak, and have become very successful and have a wonderful material based, life, very wealthy, very
Mm-hmm.
successful. And some of those people I've worked with, actually. And when I started to work with wealthier people, I was quite shocked, because I did have this impression that because of the level of comfort and stability and financial resources that they had, that they somehow wouldn't have these deep systemic longings and desires. And in
Mm-hmm.
fact, it was almost worse than the people that I'd worked with who had less material gain. So I was quite alarmed, and really could start to observe this perspective that, wow, when you're really fighting in the world for the material possessions, you're just very imbalanced of the totality of who we are as a mind, body, and spirit. And maybe this is a sweeping generalization, but maybe not everybody's this way. But I've discovered that most times throughout people's life, there's a longing for something that they can barely describe, a longing to be home, a longing for some sort of soulful, deep, meaningful connection, conversation, something deeper than what
What
we're
else?
used to seeing.
Yeah.
So I would kind of say yes, that, and the difficulty with that is, as the spiritual journey goes, is that there's always ups and downs in life. And the higher you go up, you fall down equally as
All
high
right.
as you've risen.
Okay.
So I think that's why sometimes we see this, and there's
Just ebb and
collateral.
flow that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there's collateral damage in that.
Yeah.
I think if somebody, in Japan, there's something called karoshi, which is they work so hard to the bone that literally people die at their desk of like
Wow.
exposure, because they just don't get up to take care of themselves. It's called
Uh-huh.
karoshi. And again, there's that radical imbalance. So I would have to say, when you work up, at some point in your life, there
It's gonna
might
take a
be an
toll, huh?
equal fall,
Yeah.
right? So that's why I like this kind of middle space, where I have this balance where I can kind of teeter a little bit, but I
Mhm.
don't desire to be super wealthy, super famous, and any of that, because I know the complexities that come with that. And I know the potential to fall from that. And some people don't make it through that fall. So again, I like to try to create balance as much as I can within my life.
Okay.
Mhm.
And, so with that balance, is going to, again, have little falls, little, cases where you may have, time where maybe you need a break and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what what would you do, or what do you do to, kind of re-energize or refuel your jets when you feel like I'm being a little depleted right now? What would be something that would be a go-to or a regular practice of yours to get balance again?
I'm gonna start from the end and work backwards. And this is the way that my mind works. Could be pathologized as
All
something, I'm
right.
not sure, but
Uh-huh.
I typically don't have that problem anymore. One, because I'm physically healthy, but because I've learned the skill of managing my energy. So when people say, well, what practice do you do when you're stressed out or you're tired or whatever? If that happens to me, Again, I've already missed several upstream opportunities to re-regulate and say, oh, I'm feeling this sensation like I need a break, or I need to have this difficult conversation, or I'm feeling this sensation. I pay keen attention to my senses and my feelings. And if
Gotcha.
something doesn't feel right, I'm on it. I don't let it go because I know myself, and I know that those feelings build up and resentments build up. And if I let things go, I know what's going to happen. I went down that road many years ago and it didn't
Hmm.
end very well. So
Okay.
for me, I always make sure that when I'm feeling something or I need to say something, that I do it. I do it. If I do need to think about it, I'll take a little time to think about it. But if it's gnawing at me, I don't let it sit in myself. I tend to be pretty diligent about my sleep schedule. I sleep well. I go to bed on time. I sleep well. I walk almost every day. I don't do anything crazy. I walk, I do yoga, and I do meditation. I pray. I have a very profound connection with the sacred. And I'm I will say this, I'm not married and I don't have kids. So I have to put that out there because that is one thing that I do think takes a lot of energy. So
Yes.
I live a single life. So that means that I'm in complete control of my schedule. And in certain ways, that can be lonely. And sometimes I wonder, am I ever going to get married again in my life? Who knows? But it's provided me this lens of really being able to decipher what do I need to be healthy without anybody in my life. Like, let me really set that template for myself. So
Hmm.
when that does change, I know what I need to have non-negotiables with for myself. So that's what I kind of do day to day. I check in and I check in often every day. How am I? How do I feel? Do I need to change anything? What do I need to do? And that doesn't mean I live a perfect life or I eat perfectly, but mostly day to day, I'm now on it. And then if I'm off, I know what to do to get myself back on track. So, and usually it's those things, those little things like, your mom was really stressing you out and you didn't talk about it. Or, something that I just let sit within
Okay.
my vessel and not get out. So,
Okay.
mm,
So if you were to, encourage people to take action on what maybe is a thought so it doesn't fester, or an emotion that doesn't fester, uh, what would be like, before we end the show, because we're getting a little close here and I don't want to keep you, what would be a way so that they can become, oh, and I don't know if you can say this like in one statement, because it's taken you years to practice and become alert of your senses and your emotions, but how can they make sure that they're not letting something fester and letting something, become a toxin, so to speak?
yeah, I think very simply to start, and this is what I did, is to permit myself to acknowledge when something feels good and when something feels bad. So that was the first thing that I did is how does this make me feel? And to let myself feel that and acknowledge the truth of it. And then if if it was a pattern, to permit myself to address it. So if this feels bad and I'm constantly doing it, why? And why am I self-sabotaging myself, constantly showing up in this situation or with this person when it doesn't make me feel good? At some point you have to realize that you're contributing to harming yourself then by not voicing how you feel. Or maybe there's a change that needs to take place. And addressing feelings is something that tends to have effects. And sometimes they're small, where you just need to have a conversation with somebody, and sometimes they lead to much bigger effects
Yeah,
where you
huge changes.
realize I'm with the wrong person, or I'm in the wrong job, or I'm in
Uh-huh.
the wrong location. And so permitting the feelings to flow often is an indication that that may be followed up with an asking for you to change. But if you'll be better off if you're feeling stressed or frustrated or angry, or you're not living the life you feel like you could be living. The first step is to just permit yourself to feel and to acknowledge what you're feeling, and then to be brave enough to start communicating about it.
I love it.
Mhm.
Take some time to kind of feel what you're going through, ponder and think about it, and kind of know what's happening and experience, be in the present.
That's right.
And
If you're not in the present, you can't accurately address your feelings. So that's why
nice,
things like meditation and prayer and exercise, they pull you into present time and you can be really clear on what it is, the truth of what you're feeling. If you're scattered in your mind, you're always bringing in bits of the past or anxious about things in the future, and you may not be acting in the present accurately. So that's why the meditation, the yoga, the prayer, the spiritual practice
so
help you
effective.
to feel confident and clear to say, this is my truth, actually, this is how I feel.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I'm a big advocate of meditation. I am. Mindfulness is so important because if I'm if I'm living in the past, then how am I supposed to move forward? And if I'm worried about the future, then my anxiety is taking control. So, very very well said. Thank you, Stephanie, for coming on the Double Trouble Show and
Mhm.
giving insight and spending time with us. Thank you so much because
Oh, it's my privilege.
my pleasure as well. Always appreciate you and what your character and what you stand for because I do have tremendous respect and admiration for you. Thank you.
Mm, thank you. Please, I just want to be honest, I make a lot of mistakes. I'm far from perfect. It's just my commitment to the process.
Yeah, we all do. But self-evaluation is important, and a lot of what you said today, is I think holds true for anybody who's either going through a tough time or anybody who's actually just going through any sort of relationship. You've given great insight, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Jared.
All right. Well, again, thank you for coming on. Have a very blessed evening. Okay.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, you guys. I have so much enjoyed this. Stephanie always gives so much inspiration, motivation, and she speaks from the heart. She always speaks with authenticity, and I love that. So if you have felt just the same inspiration, motivation as I have, please don't be stingy. All right. Crush that share button, share this information because I know that somebody else out there can can be just as motivated and inspired, all right, from this show, from her insight, from her information. Thank you, Nina. If you haven't watched this whole thing, Nina, replay it. Replay it because Stephanie MoDavis is such an inspiration. And if you haven't watched this whole thing, replay it and watch this completely and follow her. You can find her on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. All right. And she just has so much inspiration and motivation. And I think we all can get motivated. All right. Anyway, thank you for watching today. All right. Appreciate your support and for everyone who has commented. Steve, my brother from another mother. Tammy, who left some comments earlier, and I appreciate my brother and from my my brother, my twin brother Jeff. I appreciate you, my brother. So please, all right, if you know anybody else who's either an aspiring entrepreneur, or if you yourself, all right, are looking to become an entrepreneur, hook up with me and my twin brother. We'll get you the information that you need. But please comment, continue to give us support so that we can inspire and help other people to feel encouraged to become to take action, all right, and to do more instead of just make sure that they're comfortable. Because when we're comfortable, all right, we don't grow, all right, and we need to develop, all right. Be comfortable with doing things that are uncomfortable, all right. Peace. I'm out. Where's that outro? All right, where is it? Here it is. Boom.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway, and in the driveway.